Look at this. It's a high quality photographer right there. You know, you need someone that's willing to get on the roof and get shit done. Welcome back to today's episode of Raw Built, where we're gonna be showing you how to photograph your Airbnb so that you can get thousands and thousands of dollars of bookings. All right? I don't know. It's not really the intro I had in mind, but it probably works. So let me paint a picture here for you. Imagine that you buy a $500,000 house and you have to pay $100,000 as a down payment, 20%. And then you finally close and you take off of work a whole entire 1 or 2 weeks, and then you set up the Airbnb and you spend a lot of money doing so, and you go to World Market and you argue with your wife or your business partner about spending too much money on plants, and then finally you're done, you crush it, the place is absolutely amazing. And then at the finish line you say, hey, I've spent a lot of money already. I don't think I need to spend money on professional photos because I've got an iPhone 12. And so you decide to take photos that look like this when you should be taking photos that look like this. This happens thousands of times per day with all the listings that hit the short-term rental market, and it's costing hosts thousands of dollars, literally thousands of dollars in bookings. So today we're gonna be talking about why your biggest Airbnb splurge should be professional photography, as well as a few tips for actually photographing the magic of your Airbnb and making it shine in your listing. But I didn't want to do that without actually bringing my personal Airbnb photographer, who is solely responsible for making me tens of thousands of dollars in bookings over the past 2 years.
I'm Eric Barkhurst. I have a studio in Southern California called Barkhurst Studios, and I shoot hundreds of Airbnbs a year.
we couldn't afford the wind machine. So how often would you say you take photos for a client Airbnb and it actually impacts bookings?
All the time. I hear back from clients consistently saying that a lot of those photos are leading to higher booking rates, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, actually, this reminds me of a time, an actual anecdotal experience, actually working with Eric here, where I was actually setting up my Airbnb in LA, and I put cell phone photos up because I just didn't have time to schedule a photographer, and I hadn't actually heard a peep in like a month. I was like, oh, I wonder if my place is actually gonna book. Eric came in, shot my Airbnb, and literally within 1 or 2 days, I got 2 or 3 different booking requests. And the one that I actually accepted was a $3,000 booking. That specific guest actually ended up extending their booking twice, and it turned into a $10,000 booking. I don't know if I ever told you this, but basically this $500 investment that I made turned into a $10,000 booking for me. So that's pretty good. That's good, right? Thank you.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Love it.
So here's actually the crazy thing. Another story about Eric here is that he actually came in and reshot the home that I just told you about, and actually just locked in the biggest booking of my Airbnb career for 6 months. And it came in at a whopping $33,000. Previous to that, the biggest booking I'd ever gotten was 10,000 bucks. So as you can see, good photography pays for itself over and over and over again. So now that we've established that professional photography works, thank you, I appreciate it. You've made me a lot of money. We wanted to talk about a few tips that you should keep in mind as a host whenever you're briefing your photographer. You got a couple in mind here?
I've got a few. One, if you have an epic backyard, epic view, please think about doing sunset photos, string lights, pool lights, jacuzzi lights. Anything that really emphasizes the space where people can really hang out in is a huge, huge benefit.
Yeah, so this is a really, really significant one, because a lot of the times photographers, they're busy, right? They might have 2 or 3 shoots during the day. And so if they slot you in on a shoot like at noon, the lighting is gonna be completely different at noon than it might be at like 5 p.m. when the sun is setting. And the sun might be a lot harsher at noon, right?
Correct. Yeah, you get a lot of straight down shadows, so it's very contrasty. It doesn't look very good in the photos.
Yeah, and then a lot of stuff just looks blown out. The colors aren't as rich. And so if you come in at twilight, or twilight's in the morning?
Twilight's at night.
Okay, which one's in the morning? Blue hour? Gold?
You have blue hour, golden hour.
How many hours are there?
There's about 4.
24. There's 24. All to say, if your photographer comes in the morning at blue hour, or at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. at golden hour, or right as the sun is setting at twilight, right?
Yep.
That's correct?
Correct.
I'm getting
Sounds
nervous
good,
here.
Rob.
I'm out of my element.
You're doing good.
Those photos are gonna look drastically different. And I just actually wanted to show you the difference that twilight photos can make when you compare it to photos that we're taking in the day. So as you can see, this is my Scottsdale property. And the photos are good, but most of these photos were taken mid-afternoon. And when you compare them to the twilight or the sunset hours, it's just night and day difference. These are the new photos that Eric actually took of this place. And as you can see, it's a pretty epic difference. All right, so rookie mistake, he had to actually go take photos of the place at sunset. So we ran out of light. So we're in the house now. We're gonna get into tip number 2 here, which is edit to amplify. What does this mean when you in the context of an Airbnb?
It means don't have too much stuff in one shot. You want the frame to be full and you want it to look good and inviting, but you don't want too much clutter or things all over the place.
Yeah, so for example, you might stage a place and there's a lot going on in your field of view. So whenever you're taking photos, you might have to just move stuff around so that it looks better in the photo, even though that's not actually where it's gonna be in the house. So for example, like if your accent chairs are too close together, it might look better in real life that way, but in a photo it might look weird. So you might pull them out 2 or 3 feet so that they feel a little bit more spacious in the area in the scene. And on top of that, I think editing to amplify also probably means like reusing the same fake plants and throw pillows in every shot. Like I'm so guilty of this.
Yeah, I think a lot of furniture does really well with pillows, so don't be afraid to move a pillow to another room. Maybe a small plant on a nightstand could work really well as well.
Oh yeah, we use the same plant throughout the house. It's the central thread in the house, and people are always like, did you buy 10 of that plant? No, it's always the same succulent. You just carry that in your pocket. That's in like your tool bag.
Same with nightstands as well. So you can always kind of make a little, put a little spot on the nightstand. Maybe it's a candle, maybe it's a succulent, maybe it's something, but you want to fill the frame, but not have too much stuff where it's overwhelming.
So before we get into the final tip here, I did want to say that a lot of people are getting into the short-term rental space and they're sort of half-assing it, if I'm being honest. And I think the short-term rental space is getting very competitive and there really just isn't a lot of room for the casual host anymore. And so I am pushing a lot of people to just try to step up their game. And you can see that in this video where I'm pushing you and everybody to take professional photography. And that's one of the many things that you have to do to have a 5-star listing. So if you're in this phase where you want to enter this game at the top of your game, or you're already in the short-term rental space and you want to optimize and scale your operation, well then consider enrolling in Host Camp, my short-term rental mentorship program. We've got a community of over 1,500 students that are at the top of their game. They're absolutely crushing it. And in 2023, we're really focusing on being the most elite hosts in the short-term rental space. We hold over 100 calls every year. We have group coaching, we have accountability coaching, and you can get access to a full year of the AirDNA US subscription, which on its own, it's like $5,700. So if you're interested, you can book a free call at hostcamp.com, or you can click the link in the description down below. All right, back to the video. Come on, man. See, Caleb always trolls me. He knows I don't want to transition, but he's just leaving this here, so I look dumb. Come on, man.
And last and probably the most important tip out of this is probably something you feel quite a bit, but it's to actually make sure that you have a clean exterior.
Clean exterior and clean windows are key. If you have any kind of view to the exterior, you need to have your windows clean before the photographer gets there. The second thing is with the cleanliness is that, kind of everybody spends so much time inside the house making it look beautiful, but make sure you look outside, make sure you pick up your trash, make sure the gardener had come, just kind of do a clean sweep of the outside.
Yeah, because if you think about it, honestly, a lot of people joke and they say, oh, they'll fix it in post or they'll Photoshop it. But it's almost impossible to Photoshop clean windows. Like if they're smudgy, if they're gross, you can't Photoshop that. If there's a bunch of leaves everywhere, you could Photoshop that. I guess you could clone stamp it out, but it's gonna take you a long time. And so a good photographer, more than likely, if they're like, if they're good people, they're gonna go and they're gonna clean and they're gonna sweep for you, but that's not what you hired them to do. You didn't hire them to be your maintenance people. You didn't hire them to clean up after you. You want it to be pristine outside for your photographer. That way, all they really have to do is edit to amplify, move stuff over, frame the shot however they need to, but they're not your cleaning people, right? That's a whole nother team.
Yeah, and I will say, I actually carry a blower in my car now.
Really?
To get rid of leaves in backyards. Don't expect that from most people, and I don't like to use it a lot, but I do have one in my car.
Like a leaf blower?
A leaf blower.
Did you bring
for
one,
this specific
did you bring one
reason.
Here? Because we actually do. We need it.
Not here though.
Talk a big game. Talk's a big game.
I thought Rob's house would be clean.
Yeah, there are thousands of bushes out here, and literally we'll have the pool guy come out, and then the next day the guests will check in and there's like thousands of leaves in the pools. There's just a lot of maintenance items on a really giant property like this. There's 5 acres of natural vegetation, so it's crazy. All right, so that's 3 tips for briefing your photographer. As you can see, there is a bit of an art to photography, right? It's not just coming in and taking photos with a nice camera. There's an actual skill that goes into wielding a camera and giving your place the justice it deserves in its photos, right? So I wanted to quickly talk about the cell phone photo thing because I really do throw a lot of people under the bus here. I get a lot of students agents or a lot of people that reach out with their listings, because if you sign up with my Airbnb link, you'll be connected with me as an ambassador, and I'm the one that's giving you live feedback on your listing. So sign up with that link down below. But I get people that will submit their listing, then they take cell phone photos, and I really get onto them and I say, just spend the $200 to $700 that it might cost to take professional photos. It's really not that expensive. I know that's a big range, but there's so many photographers out there at different price points. But there is one instance when it's okay to take cell phone photos. I'm gonna give you permission to do it in this one specific time. And that's whenever you just need to launch your property and you have a photographer scheduled. And a lot of people say, should I just wait to get the pro photos so that I can launch my property? And I always say, no. You should be trying to make money as fast as you can with your property. So I think it's perfectly acceptable to take cell phone photos of your place, launch for 1 to 2 weeks while you have your photographer come out and edit the photos. And once you get them back from your photographer, upload them as fast as you can, raise your rates, and I promise you're gonna make a lot more money. And also this could be a bonus for guests because they might have booked your place with cell phone photos and then they check back, they see new photos and they're like, whoa, they get super excited to come stay in your Airbnb. So that is the only instance when you can take cell phone photos, is if you're waiting for a photographer. Other than that, don't cheap out. I know that a lot of you think, because a lot of you have reached out and said, well, my place is booked, no problem, and I've always had cell phone photos and blah, blah, blah. That could very much be true, but the problem is, if you're booked 100% with bad photos, what you're not realizing is that if you had good photos, you could be booked 100% at 20, 30, or 40% higher of an ADR, your average daily rate. So if you can just spare the $400 to $600, I promise you, you're gonna make that so many times over the course of your Airbnb career. Okay, that has been our mini masterclass on Airbnb photography with the best Airbnb photographer in the business, Eric Barkhurst. Where can people learn more about you if they wanna reach out, work with you?
You go to my website, barkhurststudios.com, or Instagram at barkhurststudios.
And tell them that Rob Built sent you, right? You're gonna hook it up for all my audience. There's
of course
225,837 of them, so you gotta give them a special deal. Okay, so with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Rob Built. You wanna do the